All right. What's going on, guys? What is going on? There we go. Had a little bit of a microphone mishap there, but that is all good. Better to do it at the beginning of the live stream than the end. All right. It's game day. Here's how this is going to work. Everyone's going to be excited for like the first quarter. Then a lot of people are going to zone out in the second quarter and so on. So that's kind of how it works, though. That's how these preseason games work. You get your first game in. It's kind of how the Hall of Fame game was last week. Everyone was like, oh, we get to see Aaron Rodgers in his first game as a Jet, and we didn't. Who are they playing against? The Browns? Yeah, we didn't see any of Deshaun Watson, none of that. So, but we are getting closer and closer to kickoff. We are 25 days away from kickoff. So I am excited for the Chiefs to get their first preseason game underway. And then we'll be getting closer and closer to Detroit on September the 7th. A lot of people looking forward to that one. Detroit's got a lot of hype coming into the season. So this was a game that a lot of people weren't really sure why it was picked as the opening kickoff game. But I think there's some hype to that, but we'll talk about that when we get there. For now, we're excited for the Chiefs to get their first game underway because there are a lot of questions out there. A lot of people want to know, what is this Chiefs team going to look like? We do have a lot of people who are new to the team. A lot of people were curious to see how they're going to look. A lot of things to look forward to. By the way, I see you guys in the chat. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever is on your mind, let me know and I'll read some of those comments as we do this pregame live stream here. This shouldn't be too long of a live stream unless we get a bunch of people that want to weigh in and give their thoughts, which, by the way, let me just set the stage for today. We'll come back at halftime and do a quick live stream. And then after the game, we'll do our post-game live stream. That post-game live stream will also serve as our post-game show for the Chiefs Zone podcast. So if you don't catch the post-game live stream at the time we're doing it, you can listen to the podcast version of it. You can listen to the archived version on YouTube, Facebook, whatever. But we're going to do the same thing we did last year for every post game where people could call in after games. So please make sure you guys call in after games. After today's game. I know the preseason, not the most exciting thing to talk about, but I'm sure there are some things we can get into. Just also depends on what happens today. So a lot of things to get into here. Let me give you guys, I posted this already, but I'll go over it again. The 5 guys I am very curious to see the most in today's game. I'll start with the wide receivers. Justin Ross. This is his first football game, and I don't know how many months, more than 600 days. 20 some months, give or take. It's been a very long, almost 2 years for Justin Ross. Has not played an organized football game in quite some time. So how is he going to look putting on the pads, going up against somebody else where they're going to give it 100% and try to drill you as hard as they can? That's what she said. What is Justin Ross going to look like in this game? I think that's the big question to me, because there's all this hype coming in. A lot of people feel like he could have been a first-round pick had it not been for the injuries he was dealing with. Dealt with an injury last offseason. So he's been out of commission for quite some time. And now he's back into the swing of things. He's had a very good training camp so far. A lot of people love what they've seen from him in camp, but obviously what happens in camp does not dictate wins and losses there. So how do you translate all that training camp hype, all those training camp highlights to the preseason and then to the regular season? Part of that step takes place today as we get closer and closer to the regular season. Another wide receiver I'm excited to see is Rashee Rice. The Chiefs have a lot of interesting wide receivers here. No big name star at wide receiver, but I think some guys that do have potential, and some people think Rashee Rice has that potential. There are a lot of guys on this offense at receiver that have potential. Sky Moore has been tabbed as a guy with potential. Rashee Rice, Kadarius Toney, who we're not going to see today, obviously. Richie James coming in from the Giants. People feel like this offense will fit him far more than any offense he's ever been a part of in the past. So Richie James is a guy that's going to be interesting to watch. Amir Smith-Marset. He's been doing some good things. Guys has some speed, which Andy Reid loves for this style of offense. But what about Rashee Rice? This is a second-round draft pick that, is learning the ropes right now and might need to prove himself in this preseason in order to get some playing time. Keep in mind, you got MVS and Kadarius Toney, who are tabbed as your potential starters going into week 1. Then you got Sky Moore, who was your second-round pick last year, so he's already ahead of Rashee Rice. The reason I'm making a big deal about that is because generally second round draft picks, especially at wide receiver, those are guys, maybe they don't start, but they should be able to play a significant amount of snaps and then eventually go into that starting role at some point as a rookie. We didn't see that from Sky Moore last year, who was a second round pick, and the Chiefs go after a wide receiver in the second round for the second year in a row. So I'm very curious to see what they do with Rashee Rice this preseason, or what he does rather, to try to prove himself and maybe try to make a case that maybe he does deserve a little bit more snaps than Sky Moore. There's obviously going to be some competition there to try to get more repetitions in regular season games. So curious to see what he does. I think another guy that would be worth watching is Nico Remigio, who is one of the team's return specialists. If you look at the depth chart, Nico Remigio is one of the backup punt returners for the Chiefs. The Chiefs only have 3 punt returners and 3 kick returners listed, though they've had a lot of guys take part in return duties in training camp. Nico Remigio is the 3rd punt returner. Richie James is the starter, Amir Smith-Marset the second guy, and then Remigio number 3. So Remigio should get some time both on offense and on special teams today. So I'd like to see what he's going to do in this football game. A couple other guys that I'm very excited to see, Keandre Coburn. I think this is, Brett Veach has done a great job finding guys outside of the first round the past couple of years in the draft. You look at Trey Smith, a 6th-round pick from 2 years ago. You look at Isaiah Pacheco, a 7th-round pick from last year. 2 major steals in the draft, and both of them were great drafts, by the way. What about this year's draft? Could Keandre Coburn fit that role of being a steal late in the draft for the Chiefs? I'd like to see a little bit more of Keandre Coburn in this football game. And obviously you don't have Chris Jones, so he's probably someone that might play a little bit more than expected. Maybe might play with the ones. I don't know. Maybe a guy like Danny Shelton, who does have some experience in the past, came over from New York, was with the team last year, or joined the team late last year in training camp, but didn't make the 53-man roster initially. But the Chiefs have kept him around, and here he is with the chance to prove himself. And listen, I'm not going to get into the Chris Jones thing. We've gone over it so many times in the past couple of weeks. But I will just say this. I guess there are some people who are not dismissing the possibility of him maybe playing for another team, or maybe not playing at all this year if he's going to remain under contract with the Chiefs. I don't think that will happen. I don't think we get to that point, but expect the unexpected, right? So I think Danny Shelton is someone I'd be very curious to see how he does in these preseason games. Danny Shelton is a big dude. He really is. Daniel Weiss is another guy that I know has been getting a lot of attention. I don't know how much of Treshaun Wharton we're going to see. He is someone that has been kind of a preseason hero in the last couple of years. He's had some highlights, and that's kept him around on this team for a couple of years now. Joined the team in 2020. I know he's been dealing with some injuries, so I don't know how much he'll play in this preseason game or if he'll play at all. But if he does play, can he continue that success and find a way to keep a roster spot going into September? Very curious to see. I think another group of players I'd be very curious to see, the linebackers. Not that I need to see something significant from Nick Bolton or Willie Gay, but I guess Drew Tranquill, being a newcomer coming in from LA, and the role that he might have with a very stacked linebacker group. What would a guy like Drew Tranquill do in this game? What could he do? What about Leo Chenal? This is a guy that a lot of people were excited about last year. We didn't see too much of him, probably because Nick Bolton and Willie Gay are your primary linebackers. So maybe there was no need to see Leo Chenal on the field as much. But, as a player, you don't want to be that guy that's not used often. You want to prove something to your coaches. So maybe Leo Chenal might do something there. I'd also be very curious to see the cornerbacks. If you guys remember 12 months ago, my biggest concern, I made a huge deal about this. I said, how are the rookie cornerbacks going to do? Because that is a very, very, very tough position to play as a rookie. Boy, those rookie quarterbacks proved me wrong last year, especially with Trent McDuffie getting hurt. Then, you kind of wondered, now you have these late round draft picks who are going to be playing way more than expected. You saw Jalen Watson make an immediate impact last year in that Thursday night game with that 100-yard pick six. If he does not do that, Kansas City probably loses that football game. That was one of the biggest clutch moments for the Chiefs last year was coming away with that big pick. And Jalen Watson, again, clutch, coming through in the AFC Championship game with a nice pick against Joe Burrow. Joshua Williams also had an interception against Joe Burrow. I'd say he did a solid job as a rookie overall last year as well. Nazeeh Johnson, unfortunately, not going to be part of the team this year in the regular season of suffering a season-ending injury, but that gives a guy like Lamar Jackson, maybe Taylor Reese, Anthony Witherspoon, a lot of guys, Nick Jones, who the Chiefs drafted in the 7th round this year. A lot of guys have an opportunity now because there was a roster spot that unfortunately opened up. But listen, injuries are part of sports in a very unforgiving way, and especially this sport. So that's just the way things happen sometimes. And I think that just gives an opportunity for somebody else to try to make some plays this preseason and try to make that 53-man roster. And then I guess the last position group, the specialists. I'd like to see Butker do well in the preseason. Look, I know we can't put too much stock in preseason games, right? We just can't. But a position like kicker, I mean, listen, how different will your kicks really be in the regular season compared to the preseason? Hardly at all. Butker did struggle last year, but did come through when needed. Let's not forget, this is a guy who kicked the game-winning field goal with just a few seconds left in both the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. So, but at the same time, his overall body of work was not the best. Obviously dealt with that ankle injury last year in Arizona. So how does Harrison Butker try to put all of that behind him moving forward? So far this preseason, it has not been the prettiest of preseason for some kickers out there. So can Harrison Butker try to avoid that little bubble right there and try to do a better job this year? I'd like to see Harrison Butker make we have 3 preseason games and we don't have another kicker on the team. Obviously Justin Reed, but I don't know if we're going to see much of him. I'd like to see Harrison Butker make about 8 or 9 field goals, attempt at least 10 or 11. If he has that kind of right, like if he makes 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 11, I'd be pretty pleased with that in the preseason. I don't know how much we're going to see from him. I would imagine Andy Reid maybe goes for it a little bit more because maybe he needs to see more from some of the offensive players than Harrison Butker, and I would be okay with that. But if Andy Reid does treat this like an actual regular season game where he wants to take the points when needed, then yeah, let's see what Harrison Butker can do if he attempts 9, 10, 11 field goals this preseason in the 3 games possible. And then the return specialist, the Chiefs have not had a primary return guy for quite some time. Tyreek Hill was that guy as a rookie, but they wanted him to focus more on offense in the rest of his time in Kansas City. You had Niall Davis for a little bit, Quentin Williams, if you guys remember him. Who else am I thinking of? Dexter McCluster a little bit. He only played 1 year for Andy Reid. So the Chiefs haven't really had DeAnthony Thomas, another guy. The Chiefs have not had like a long tenured return specialist in Kansas City like they did with Tamarick Vanover, Dante Hall. We haven't really had that kind of a returner in Kansas City. Richie James is the main punt returner, and Deneric Prince is the main kick returner. By the way, I didn't mention Deneric Prince, the running back for the Chiefs. Obviously, Pacheco, McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they're expected to make the team. Could the Chiefs have a 4th running back this year with Deneric Prince, who is also your main kick returner on the team for right now? This is someone that I think could play a lot in the second half, maybe a little bit even before the second quarter. Probably gets a lot of the carries in this game. And how does he try to prove himself in Andy Reid's pass-heavy offense? How much does he come out of the backfield and catch passes? Can he do some of the things that Jerick McKinnon did that really came through for the Chiefs last year and even the year before? And let's not forget, Jerick McKinnon won AFC Offensive Player of the Month for the month of December and then also the 2 weeks for January, because obviously they're not playing in the regular season for the entire month of January. So how much of Deneric Prince will we see? How much has he learned from some of these guys? such as Pacheco, McKinnon, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's been around for a few years now. Deneric Prince would be a very interesting guy. But going back to returners, we just never had that dominant returner really since Dante Hall. And I think when you have a special teams coordinator like Dave Tobe, don't get me wrong, the Chiefs have had a lot of returners who've scored, who've been able to come through and score maybe once or twice or a little bit more ever since Dave Tobe's been in Kansas City. But we haven't had just that one primary dominant returner for a long period of time is what I'm trying to say. So can we maybe find that guy in this preseason? I don't know. And look, even a guy like Tremont Smith, who never scored a touchdown for the Chiefs, but did have a couple of big kick returns for the Chiefs that really helped set them up. I'd like to see the Chiefs do some of that. All right. Oh, holy shit. A lot of comments here. This is what happens when you have way too much fun. Okay. Let's read some comments here. Eric says route running is going to stand out. Rhonda says I'm behind. Is it playing on the West Coast? Okay. So a lot of people have been asking this. If you are in Kansas City, you're going to be, you have this on KSHB. That's channel 41. I believe it's channel 13 if you have like Spectrum or maybe another cable network. If you are in Kansas City, you will not be able to watch the NFL Network feed of it. It will be blacked out in Kansas City. Same with New Orleans. If you're in New Orleans, I have no idea what channel the game is on, so do some research and see who is the official partner of the New Orleans Saints. If you are not in Kansas City nor New Orleans, this game will be on NFL Network. If you don't have NFL Network and you got, 40 minutes right now, you can dish out a few bucks for NFL Plus. Those are really listen. There are some not so legal ways to catch the game. I am not in any liberty to talk about that. Luis says Justin Boss. That's probably autocorrect there, but I'd be okay with Justin Boss. Why not? And Rashee Rice. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how Ross or Boss does. And these next again, Luis, I think you just invented a nickname for Justin Ross. I think you just did that intentionally or not. I don't know. Yes, Michelle, football is back indeed. Timing catches right on the dot for Rashee Rice. Yeah, and his name escapes my mind right now. One of the analysts, Louis Riddick for ESPN. When they were talking about the Chiefs earlier this offseason, he was pretty high on Rashee Rice. Said that he is a stud. His words, not mine. And that he could maybe do some big things for the Chiefs offense this year. That is a very bold prediction, in my opinion, because where is Rashee Rice going to be on the depth chart? And if he's, I think he's going to be behind MVS, KT, and Sky Moore. So we're not, I don't know how much of him we'll be able to see it. By the way, I keep forgetting Travis Kelce. That's your primary tight end there. So, how much of Rashee Rice could we see in the regular season? I'm sure we'll see a lot of him in the preseason, but I just don't know how much he'll do in regular season games because of, and again, Justin Ross, that's a guy that's getting a lot of hype. Justin Watson's been around the block for a little bit. Debner says all the new guys are going to show up when we need them the most, and being consistent will win games one by one. Okay, love the optimism here. Deneric Prince is going to be a Priest Holmes, Derek Blaylock flash combo. Okay, all right, and that's quite the prediction there, Eric. Hoping someone steps up at defensive tackle today, just in case. Yeah, you kind of need that. And that's probably a very important position group to keep an eye on in case we see worst case scenario with that. Yeah, but like we have a very good group there. That might be Kansas City's strongest position group. And I don't know what number two would be. Maybe the tight ends, maybe the quarterbacks, maybe the offensive line. Which I know I've been talking mostly about backups, but the two offensive tackles, Donovan Smith and Juwan Taylor, I didn't talk about those guys. I need to see some things from them. Like, if there are any starters that I need to see something from them, it's those two guys right there. I need to see. And listen, I don't think it's not saying much that, Orlando Brown Jr. and Andrew Wiley, yeah, it's an upgrade. again, not saying much. Those two guys led the NFL in quarterback pressures allowed for Orlando Brown among left tackles and for Andrew Wiley among right tackles. Those two were numbers 1 and 2 among all offensive tackles in that category. So, you could put a rotten tomato there and it would still be an upgrade over Orlando Brown Jr. It just would. I'm not trying to be funny or anything. I mean, that's just reality, honestly. But I want to see those guys. If Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor at the least are average, Patrick Mahomes is going to have another great year. He won MVP with those two offensive tackles I mentioned last year who led the NFL in pressures allowed. So if Patrick Mahomes can do that with those two guys, what can he do with an upgrade at those two spots, left tackle and right tackle? It's kind of a scary thought for the 31 other defenses out there. Here's a name I have not brought up. Blake says, I would like to see FAU step up and make some plays today. Yeah, FAU is a little low on the depth chart, which is not a surprise for even a first-round draft pick. George Karlaftis was a backup, but FAU was, I think, with the 3s in the initial depth chart they released earlier this week. That was a bit of a surprise there. So what do we see from FAU in this game? Chargers going to have a tough year this year. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to go off that preseason game. Though I think I turned it off when the Chargers were winning, I think 20-3. I turned it off after Sean McVay's interview because I didn't really have too much interest after that. But I mean, I don't know. I still think the Chargers are still the number 2 team. They're a good football team, but my God, just hold on to a big lead when you can. Because there's a chance the Chargers could have been the team that would have visited Arrowhead. I don't know. If the Chargers won that game, do they come to Arrowhead for the divisional round, or do they visit for the AFC title game? I don't know. I don't remember what seed they were. I think they would have ended up visiting instead of Jacksonville for the divisional round. I don't know. And they played the Chiefs very close twice last year. In fact, off the top of my head, and I'm excluding that week 17 game in 2020 because the Chiefs had the number 1 seed locked up and they started Chad Henne in the backups. The Chiefs and Chargers have played each other very, 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 very close every single time. Chargers have had a couple of games on KC, but the Chiefs, more times than not, have had the upper hand. But man, I don't know if I agree that they're going to have a tough year. I don't think so. The strong bond between the defensive backs on the ones. First episode of the franchise made me feel pretty damn happy. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't watch the franchise. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Listen, I've got a long list of shows that I need to watch. The franchise is not on that list. I've heard good things about it though. Chris Jones and the Chiefs need to close the deal. Yeah, my prediction is the 21st. If we don't get a deal after the 21st, that's when I would get concerned. Gwen, what's up? I see you. Sky Moore relieving the plays too, and how he cleared up the muff punt was super awesome. Yeah, last year in the AFC Championship game, and I think Dante Hall said something to Mitch Holthus about how a return like that in such a crucial moment. Obviously, Chris Jones got that sack when people thought the Bengals were gonna win again, and then you punt the football. Sky Moore sets up a great return. Obviously, that penalty, that run and that penalty on the play after helped also. But without Sky Moore's punt return, you don't even come close to an opportunity. So, yeah. NFL Network, Kathy, if you're outside of KC, if you're in KC, it's KSHB. Thank you, Yasina. I hope I'm saying that correct. Yesenia. I hope I said that correctly. Thank you. It is great to be back. We have not done this. We've done live streams, but I know some of you guys don't tune in for the podcast live, and that's completely understandable. But for the live, Quentin Demps, thank you. What did I say? I said Quentin something else. Quentin Smith, I think. I don't even know what I said. Quentin Williams, I think is what I said. Yeah, we haven't done a live stream like this in quite some time, so I'm happy to be back here with all of you. Really want Trent McDuffie to get a pick. Yeah, Trent McDuffie didn't have a pick last year as a rookie. Yeah, that's a good point. So I'm very curious to see what he does in this preseason and in the regular season. Gwen says, I think Sky Moore will have a breakout year. Yeah, a lot of guys are tabbed as potential breakout year candidates: Justin Ross, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, Deneric Prince, Richie James. Deneric Prince, not a wide receiver, obviously, but still, a name I threw out there. A lot of potentials. I don't know who's going to have a breakout year. I don't know if we're going to see 1,000-yard receiver from the wide receivers this year. Obviously, Travis Kelce, provided that he stays healthy, which he generally does. But more times than not with Sky Moore, he didn't have the rookie season that I think a normal second-round draft pick would have liked to have had. And that's not his fault. It's not because he sucked or anything like that. It's because, he was behind Juju. He was behind MVS. He was, when Kadarius Toney came here, they used him, KT, more than Sky Moore. So Sky Moore was pretty low on the depth chart as a second-round rookie. And Travis Kelce, again, your primary tight end there. So that's what a lot of people are curious to see. Gwen, you're not the only one. Kyle's asking, do you think Clyde Edwards-Helaire will make the team? I think so. I think you got to keep him on the team in case Isaiah Pacheco re-injures in his wrist or his shoulder again. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you need him as an insurance policy. Listen, here's what I know this is not the ideal situation for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but the reality is he has not lived up to his first-round status. But he has delivered on the field. Now, has he played like a first-round draft pick? No. He has not put up big numbers like we would like to see from a first-round draft pick. But what if Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a more of a role player type of responsibility with this team? What if he plays 5 to 10 snaps per game this year instead of getting 15 to 20 snaps a game this year? That would obviously reduce his chances of getting hurt and probably would be able to contribute a little bit more in that manner, in a positive way. Not a knock on him. Unfortunately, things just haven't panned out the way he would like for it to. Same with the Chiefs. They drafted him in the first round thinking he could maybe be that potential replacement for Kareem Hunt, but that has not been the case. Isaiah Pacheco has kind of leapfrogged him in that category. What's up, Michael? You're never too late, dude. You are never too late. Darian Kennard playing this year. What was the latest on Darian Kennard? I remember seeing something with him. Because we didn't see much of him last year. And he did shift to offensive guard. I always think it's interesting when players, like if you're a rookie, for instance, who was it? The offensive tackle from Mizzou, Mitch Morse, I think it was. He was drafted as an offensive tackle, but the Chiefs moved him to center, and he thrived there. But once you've been in the NFL for a year, and not that Darian Kennard played much last year, but how does he do in that transition from tackle to guard? That's not the biggest transition in the world, but still somewhat of a learning curve there, probably. So we could get Matthew back. Who's Matthew? Who is Matthew? I'm looking at the depth chart. Who? Hold on. Let me do a little control F here. Yeah, who do we have by the name Matthew? I don't know. Remember the fights? What fights? Like the one almost 19 years ago with Brock Lesnar? That one I remember. On NBC in Southeast Kansas. Yeah, Channel 41, KSHB. Yeah, Michael, I am too. More so the offensive tackles. Those are the two starters I care about the most in this game. MVS needs to show up as a vet and show out. Yeah, listen, I think MVS did some good things last year as a number 2 receiver. Some people were not very excited for him because he had that little history of drops in the past, but I think he did really well for a number 2 receiver. And when Juju was not available, when the Kadarius Toney was hurt, when McCole Hardman was out for so long, MVS did a really good job holding his own last year, I felt like. He really did. So I think I think this is someone that he's going to need to step up and maybe take on those number one roles, especially if KT gets hurt again. The Chiefs are going to rely on him a little bit more. He has that breakaway speed. We didn't see that breakaway speed too much from him last year. So I'd like to see that. Okay, KOZL 27 in Springfield. Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with places like Wichita, Springfield, St. Joe. I don't know exactly what channel these games are in those areas. So I do appreciate anyone that can provide that information in the comments for those that live just a little bit outside of the metro area. How many people do we have to cut to get to the 90-man roster? Is it still 53? Yeah, 37. If it's still 53. I want to say they moved it up to 56, or is that going to be next year? I can't remember. If you had to draft one player in fantasy football, draft only one player from the Chiefs, who would you choose? You are asking the wrong person for fantasy advice. I think fantasy football is boring. I'd rather play Madden than fantasy football. And I don't even play Madden a whole lot. I'm guessing Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are excluded from this question because those would be the obvious answers there. Obviously, if you can get Mahomes or Kelce, that's a big home run for your fantasy team. I don't know. Like, I want to say Jerick McKinnon, but I don't know how much the Chiefs will use him early in the season, because they try to use him more for the second half than they do for the later part of the earlier part of the season. Yes, Mahomes is only going to be playing one quarter. Eric says, I think either Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get traded or Blake Bell will get released to make room for the wide receivers they want to keep. And keep in mind, guys, we don't have a fullback anymore. And maybe you keep an extra tight end. And I didn't mention this guy's name, but Matt Bushman. He looked really good in last year's preseason finale. Unfortunately, he suffered a broken clavicle injury that pretty much sidelined him for the entire 2022 season, I should say. So could a guy like Matt Bushman maybe step up and maybe even play that fullback position a little bit more? Because you'll still have to put somebody there. It's just you're not going to get much fullback play. So I don't know. How many tight ends do you keep? Do you keep a fourth or a fifth tight end? Do you keep a seventh receiver or a fourth or a fifth running back? That is a little bit of a game the Chiefs have got to experiment with. By the way, I'm trying to multitask here. If you guys haven't done so already, I just commented in the video. If you guys would, please subscribe to the Chiefs Zone YouTube channel. I have a Chiefs Zone Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I would more so appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the Chiefs Zone's YouTube channel, because we are going to start dishing out a lot of content on there very, very soon. So if you guys could subscribe to that, that'd be great. And as a matter of fact, all the live stuff we do, all the live things we do, like our podcast, these pregame live streams, postgame live streams, they will all be on Facebook and YouTube. They will simulcast on those two places. So if you're on YouTube and you get a notification we're live, you can stick to YouTube. If you're on Facebook, you can watch through Facebook. So there's that. Just wanted to get that out there. So if you guys would, please subscribe to that if you haven't done so already. All right, let's get back to the comments. Oh, okay, already seeing a jump in subscribers. Thank you, guys. That means a lot. I appreciate it. Patrick says, what's the big deal at August 21st? Okay, this is a good question. So let's back up a little bit. Let me pull up the calendar here, because that will help me explain things. So I have to back up a little bit before August 21st. August the 17th, that is a Thursday. That is the final day of training camp in St. Joe. Now, I would have predicted either the 18th or the 19th, but on the 19th, the Chiefs are going to go visit the Arizona Cardinals. So Chris Jones will probably stay away for that as well. Then the 20th, they come back, and then the 20th, they probably go back to another full practice. So and then by the way, that practice is no longer in St. Joe. That'll be at the Chiefs practice facility. So my guess is that Chris Jones, between the 18th through the 21st, I'm going to say the 21st, I think that is where he comes back. I think he'll come back on the 21st and try to give himself a couple more days off before returning with the team, with or without a new deal. How much do I think Mahomes will play? He will just play one quarter today, KB. Don't expect much from him outside of that. Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. Glad to have you back. All of you back. Let's see here. I'm excited for these live streams, man. This is going to be another good year. Listen, the page has grown so much. I was just Facebook always sends these what do they call them? Memories, I guess what they call them. And I remember something came up a year ago today where we had we've grown 25,000 in followers in the last 12 months. So you guys are fucking awesome, man. You guys are the reason why I'm able to do this. So if it's not for you guys, these live streams are essentially useless. And listen, I'm aware you guys have a lot of options out there with TV pregame shows, radio pregame. You guys are choosing to listen to me ramble and sound like a moron. So thank you guys for being a part of the live streams. Kyle says, I feel like it's going to be tough to figure who to cut. Yeah, it's going to be, especially at wide receiver, cornerback, defensive tackle. I think those are going to be the most challenging areas for the coaching staff to trim down the roster. Kyle, I agree. Maybe even running back a little bit. Patrick says Sky Moore just is not that good. Okay, all right. A little strong coming in hot. We have not even played a game yet, and Patrick's coming in hot. Andrew says, do you agree Nick Bolton has become the most important piece for our defense looking long term? That's a damn good question. In this style of defense, I can see some people saying yes. The reason I'm struggling to give an answer here is, I think what Chris Jones does, and I know we're in a weird standoff with Chris Jones and Brett Veach, but I think what Chris Jones does helps Nick Bolton in this 4-3 style defense. If you have a very good defensive line, which I think the Chiefs do with Jones, Karlaftis, and I think FAU will eventually come on to his own. I know he's low on the depth chart right now, but that doesn't mean much in mid to early August. But that will always help any linebacker, again, in this 4-3 defensive scheme. Do I think Nick Bolton is going to be the most important piece for the defense in the future, long term? This is a really tough question to answer because, I want to see what's going to happen with Chris Jones. Because if Chris Jones does get signed, you're going to be limited on who you can keep after Chris Jones, because next offseason, you have to think about Creed Humphrey, you have to think about Trey Smith and Nick Bolton, all guys from the 2021 NFL draft. The reality is you might not be able to keep all three of those guys if Chris Jones gets the deal he's asking for. Listen, that's not anyone's fault other than the Chiefs for drafting so well. And I say that loosely, of course. But I just don't know what you do if Chris Jones is picked, because I think you got to pick and choose. The salary cap has a limit. You can't sign everybody unless everyone else is taking team friendly deals. You're gonna lose a fan favorite here. I know Nick Bolton is a big fan favorite because he's from the Mizzou area and he's playing great. I said Mizzou area. I meant to say he went to Mizzou. The offensive linemen, I mean, people have really come around to love Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Offensive linemen, generally aren't talked about much, but those two guys from the same draft class, they're both doing FOCO ads. They both did the whole donut thing with Lamar's Donuts, I think it was, or Mr. D's Donuts. I can't remember which one it was, but people have really enjoyed having Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in Kansas City. By the way, I got a notification from Bleacher Report about the game starting in 15 minutes. And for the money, the whole betting odds, they have the Saints at 1.5. Who the hell bets on the preseason? If you're at Hollywood Casino, oh, you meant Tyrann Mathieu. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, we're not getting him back per se, but okay, all right. I understand what you mean. If you're at Hollywood Casino, why would you bet on a preseason game. I would rather just like put that on roulette or something. I don't know. Like, who bets on preseason games? By the way, can we talk about how fucking silly it is that the Ravens brag about winning 24 straight preseason games? Yeah, hold on. Let's no one cares. It's a preseason, god damn it. This is like bragging about that you beat up a bunch of backups. What are you doing? Come on. I remember the Chiefs made a huge deal about how because the Chiefs went 4-0. This was before they cut the preseason game from 4 to 3, 3 games. I remember the Chiefs went 4-0 in the preseason, and their social media team was like, "Oh, well, this is our third time going 4-0. The other 2 times we did that, we won the Super Bowl or went to the Super Bowl." I'm like, "No, stop, please stop. Don't do that." Why Mahomes and Kelsey starting? Ain't that a huge risk? Listen, I've seen some people out there, throw the idea of why even play those 2 guys. Look, Mahomes needs to get his feet. I don't need to see Mahomes and Kelsey connect. I don't. None of us do. Maybe for like the sake of our sanity, like our hearts, sure. But I need to see Mahomes kind of, work with a Sky Moore or Rashee Rice, maybe a Jody Fortson or Justin Ross. Like, those are guys I need to see Mahomes sling the ball to a little bit in this game. I will say this, like, these 2 preseason games, the weeks 1 and 2 against the Saints and Cardinals, I want to see Mahomes only for a drive. I don't need nothing more. I know the 3rd preseason game, back when it was 4 preseason games, that 3rd game was like the dress rehearsal game where you would play into the second half. And I never liked that. I know from like an entertainment perspective, yeah, that made people tune in more for these games, but you just never want to risk anything. You just don't. Wow, this pregame live stream is much longer than I initially thought. Thank you guys. I mean, this has to be one of the best pregame live streams we've had. This is just a preseason. Okay, I'm excited for the regular season. Mike says looking to see how Rice, Prince, Justin Ross do today. Yeah, those are some guys I'm looking forward to seeing as well, Mike. Dan says MVS didn't have as many drops as Hardman. I won't miss that guy. I'll miss Hardman's ability. We never got a chance to see Hardman's potential in Casey, unfortunately. We never did. As a matter of fact, when Hardman was playing, so many Chiefs fans criticized him for not living up to his potential. But then when he was gone for so long, people came around like Hardman didn't do anything. He was just hurt sitting on the sidelines, and he gained a lot of favoritism for his injury. McCole Hardman's experience in Kansas City was such a weird one. Did some great things as a special teams guy and on offense too, but we just didn't see the consistency. He played far more better as a rookie than he did in his second year and in his third year and in his last year. Like his average went down. Yeah, sure, he had more touches and all that, but his average went down. And as a rookie, man, and listen, as a rookie, he was playing behind Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. Oh, and again, Travis Kelce's part of your pass catching core. Eric mentions a very interesting name here. Brian Cook will be solid. He's very physical, and many have not seen that. And I see your comment about Nick Bolton. I'm gonna move on from that, Eric, because we already talked about Nick Bolton. But Brian Cook, don't forget, he was the guy that tipped the pass to Josh Williams in the AFC Championship game. 2 rookies right there. Working together to get that pick right there. Brian Cook with the tip and Joshua Williams getting the interception against Joe Burrow there. So that was probably Brian Cook's biggest play of the year last year. And again, this is a guy that didn't play much. He was behind Juan Thornhill in the depth chart. Juan Thornhill is now with the Cleveland Browns. So Brian Cook right now is listed as a starter on the depth chart. So what does a guy like Brian Cook do? And he was a 2nd round pick, I believe. Let me double check on that. 2nd or 3rd? He was a 2nd round pick. And again, kind of what I said earlier in the live stream when talking about Rashee Rice, 2nd round picks generally do play a little more. Okay. We got about 10 minutes left. Kelsey signed my 10-year-old daughter 87 jersey at training camp. That is awesome. Yeah, don't wash it, don't wear it, hang it, frame it, put it on your mantle. That is the only thing you should ever do with that jersey ever again. Let's see here. 13K Witch in Wichita. I've heard of that station. Okay, that's where it's going to be in Wichita. Good to know. Thank you, Relena. I hope I said your name correctly. Thank you guys for I see the YouTube comments now on StreamYard. So Brad, I see you. Thank you guys. We're gonna be putting a lot of content on the Chiefs Zone Facebook page, on the Chiefs Zone Instagram page, the TikTok page, and on the YouTube channel. So if you guys, I mainly care mostly about the YouTube channel. But if you want to subscribe on all platforms, that would be greatly appreciated as well. So thank you guys for doing that. That means a lot. And like I said, I did promote YouTube content last year, and I didn't really get around to doing that. Trust me, this is going to be a different year. Yes, Gary. Chris Jones can be franchise tagged next year. Yes. Michael says, can you post a link again? Happily, Michael. Let me get there. There. Whoops. Boom. There it is. That is the YouTube link right there. Skymore is going to be the Skymore we haven't seen yet. I hope so. Get the jitters out. I agree. The switch from Tyrann Mathieu to Bolton was almost seamless, so that proves Reed and Veach aren't married to one defensive player. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying, Nate. I was a little confused because those two guys don't play the same position, but I get what you're trying to say. Yeah. And listen, I was just listening on the radio. I know that it was archived from the week, but Matt Derrick, who's a good friend of mine, he was on A10 earlier this week, and he talked about, keep in mind with the Chiefs, who have and I did not realize this until I heard this morning. Who have the Chiefs extended? Okay, they extended Patrick Mahomes, they extended Tyreek Hill, but who have they given like big extensions to outside of that? No one else. Travis Kelce, I think still he signed like a longer term deal a few years ago. So when you hear that, the odds are kind of stacked against Chris Jones. I'm glad my buddy is a Ravens fan and doesn't brag about that. Yeah, that'd be such a stupid thing to brag. I'd rather lose the preseason games. Because I remember as a kid, the thought was whoever loses in the preseason wins in the regular season, and whoever wins in the preseason loses in the preseason. Which, by the way, remember last year, the Raiders played 4 games last year in the preseason, and they went 4-0. How'd that go? The Lions. The same year the Lions went 0-16, that was the same year they went 4-0 in the preseason. Mike asks, you think they should restructure Joe Thuney's contract? Perhaps that's a possibility. They've already restructured it once before. They've restructured Patrick Mahomes' deal a couple times. So I don't know. Serious gamblers bet on the preseason. Yeah, I guess. A couple more comments. I'm getting out of here, guys. Farzin, we talked a lot about players. What do you think about our OC and DC each need to prove in the most preseason? Oh, that's a really good question. Listen, I think Spags needs to just do his thing. The thing that I have a hard time with the most with this defense is the 2-minute when they're trying to go up against a 2-minute offense. Our defense fucking breaks apart. Why? They need to be way better about that. And listen, the 2-minute drill is hard for a lot of defenses in general, but I feel like this defense should be a little bit better about that. And you have rookie cornerback, well, no longer rookie cornerbacks. I was going to say they have a year of experience under their belt, so maybe they can be a little bit better about that kind of thing. And as far as your question about offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy, he has coached Mahomes before, but never when Mahomes was the primary quarterback. At the time, Alex Smith was the guy. So I'd be very curious to see what kind of creativity Matt Nagy can bring to this offense, because Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy did a great job of that last year. What does Matt Nagy do coming back after a few years away from the Chiefs? Well, he was back last year as a QB coach, but now he has a much bigger role. Give Derek Carr a going away party. Yep, we are going to see an old foe today. When I hear Hardman, I always think of, DK Metcalf. Could have been him. Who knows? Okay. How much time we got left? Okay, I'm caught up. Enrique says Derek Carr on steroids. Did you see the 22, 23 picks? He put on a lot of muscles. Good for him. Drug test him. We'll see. Yeah, Felix and George will play, Doug. They might not play together though. But yeah, those are your first round picks. Those are your first round defensive ends. You got first round pass rushers. They better thrive. I agree. Sky Moore hot take last year. I extend to this year. Number 1 wide receiver with the most yards. Okay, there you go, Enrique. We got a couple of big hot takes today. I love it. Haven't even played a game yet this season, and we got some hot takes. Okay, Mike, you got the last word here. What would a Chris Jones look? Hypothetical speaking, what would a Chris Jones trade look? And what would the Chiefs get in return for it? Okay, that's what you meant. People have been asking this a lot. Maybe something similar to the Tyreek Hill trade, where you get a first and a second and a few other second-day picks, or something similar to the Jared Allen deal, where you get a first and 2/3. The Vikings had a first-round pick, and they had 2 third-round picks. I think the other third-round pick was from Denver, so Denver's third-round pick eventually became ours, if I recall that correctly. Don't quote me on that. I might be mixing that up for another team, but I think that it'll be something like that. It could be one of those two types of deals. You would need to find a team that has 2/3, which I don't know how many teams have that right now. But it would either something similar to the Jared Allen trade or the Tyreek Hill trade. Or if there's a team out there willing to give 2 firsts, given that Chris Jones is getting older, I'd rather have Chris Jones than 2 firsts. But if what Chris Jones is asking for is going to put the Chiefs in a bind with the salary cap, then I'll take the 2 firsts. I will. Listen, I think for final thought here before I get out of here, I think the thing to keep in mind is this Chiefs team is going to have a lot of play. If they keep drafting well, they might end up not retaining a lot of those guys because their priority needs to be Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce got probably a couple of years left. And prioritize the offensive line. Prioritize your quarterback, which they've already done. Your next priority needs to be protecting the quarterback. Outside of that, they're going to be trying to draft well, which they've done. They've had a home run draft the past couple of years. And then trying to get, mid-tier free agents. That's what Belichick did in New England for so long. So I think that's what he's going to try. The Chiefs are going to try to do in KC. All right. 11:59. You got 60 seconds left. Do whatever the hell you want for 60 seconds and go watch Chiefs football. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be back at halftime. I'm actually going to be doing that from the fan cave, so we're not going to be in the studio. But after the game, we're going to be doing a post-game live stream. It's also going to serve as our podcast recap. We're going to be doing call-ins through StreamYard. It's going to work very similar to last year. So please call into the post-game live stream. I want to hear from all of you guys after the game. I'm out of here. Peace out. Enjoy the game. Go Chiefs.